Hello, and welcome to this edition of Temple Street, a news show brought to you by the Department of Communication and Journalism at Suffolk University. I'm Mark Provenzano.
And I'm Nicole Lee. On today's show, we'll hear what Bostonians think about the recent Tea Party protests. We'll talk to renowned author James Carroll and showcase the recent Rammy Awards, our very own red carpet celebration. We will also meet two Suffolk seniors with a promising future and end, as always, with Critics' Corner.
But first, we look at one of the oldest continuous sports traditions in the world, the Boston Marathon. In recent years, the Boston Marathon has become more than just a 26.2-mile race, as many participants are also raising money for charity. Temple Street's own Maria Valvanis followed her mother, who's running to make a difference. Here's the story.
Charity fundraising hit record highs in this year's 114th Boston Marathon. The oldest city marathon in the world, which began in 1897, is also now a major fundraising event for groups such as Dana-Farber, Beth Israel, and Mass General. We met my mom, Thea Valvanis, a working mother of four, who ran this year with the Mass General Marathon team, raising awareness of childhood cancer.
This is the second year that I've run for the hospital, and I have a patient partner, Tommy Doran. Tommy is a 15-year-old boy. He was diagnosed with leukemia when he was 4, and it's a treatable kind of leukemia, but in his case, he's had 3 different recurrences, which is very, very unusual.
Tommy has been treated at MGH since he was diagnosed 11 years ago and has had 10 different runners in his honor.
Yeah, all my runners are very interesting. They're great because they help the research, so it's good.
The MGH Marathon team was established in 1998 by Dr. Howard Weinstein and has raised more than $5 million to support pediatric hematology oncology for Mass General kids with cancer, such as Tommy. Weinstein says he started the program in order to honor our brave young patients who face their own marathons each and every day as they struggle to live long and healthy lives.
It's really inspiring to run when you know you're helping a person and a whole group and raising money for cancer, and while you're at the race you see tons and tons of people who are doing that, so it gives you the motivation you need to get through the race. With
runners and supporters such as my mom and the hundreds of others involved with charity programs, Tommy Doran can continue to have high hopes and a positive attitude.
It's made me think of the bright side of things, not always thinking, oh, this is bad, it's not going to work. You need to keep being supportive for yourself and don't have doubts.
I'm Maria Valvanis with Temple Street.
To help kids like Tommy fight cancer, you can visit www.massgeneral.org/marathon.
With April notoriously being called Tax Month, Tea Party members had no problem attracting supporters and curious bystanders onto the Boston Common. Ronnie Campbell and Nicole Lee have the story.
On April 14th, protesters, bystanders, and Sarah Palin stood out in the crowded Boston Common fighting for taxation with a bad reputation. Although crates of tea leaves won't be thrown into Boston Harbor as happened in 1773, the protesters were trying their best to associate themselves with the originals. This current version of the Tea Party rally was a peaceful demonstration against what they believe is big government and out-of-control spending. Outgoing mother Dorothy O'Hara dressed as a pirate to catch the attention of crowds, and she says she wants to assure the future of her children.
I'm an independent, and it crosses all party lines, and it's just a lot of people who are sick and tired of big government robbing us blind. And I'm doing it for my son who just joined the Navy and my grandkids. Their future does not need to be robbed.
Other supporters say the financial impact of the government spending will be a burden on the next generation. Like Tom Hughes, who believes that President Obama's policies will eventually bankrupt the United States.
It's really all about a government that's long since listening to the public anymore. I mean, it's all become about backroom deals and spending more money. And the government has brought us to a point where the financial burden to our great-grandchildren is so huge they can never pay it back. The only possible outcome is eventual financial collapse. Nothing else can happen.
Some bystanders were just there to observe and see what all the fuss on tea was about. Keynote speaker and former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin stirred up the crowd with her opinion on America's struggling economy. Although many protesters said they would have liked to see newly elected Senator Scott Brown, they settled for Palin's famous foxy flirtatious slogans.
It's the day before tax day, the day that the tax man cometh, on top of tax cuts expiring, in the town that the sons of liberty call home.
And with high hopes for a new tax revolution not happening just yet, protesters left at least feeling satisfied with having exercised their right to free speech. For Temple Street, I'm Nicole Lee.
For more information on the Tea Party movement, you can always go to www.bostonteaparty.org.
While the original Boston Tea Party made history in 1773, current Tea Party enthusiasts are still brewing political activism, which has sparked both support and controversy. Megan LeMay hit the cobblestone streets of Beacon Hill to get the opinions of locals.
Well, I don't have a very favorable opinion of the Tea Party because I'm not sure that they understand the meaning of it from the 1770s and what the actual Boston Tea Party was all about. So I think it's more of just a group of people who are very upset with this government and want an outlet to be able to protest. And I think some Tea Party protesters are doing it well. Some are not. And I think a lot of the media is concentrating on those really negative protesters.
Well, personally, I'm a Republican, so I kind of support the idea behind it, but I think recently it's getting a little bit too commercialized, like the Tea Party Express. It's just really starting to commercialize it, and I don't really approve of that. I think the strength of the Tea Party is that it really was like a grassroots organization type thing.
I'm not a fan of Sarah Palin's, and I think they're really quite biased, and that goes against my liberal democratic principles, so I guess I'd say I'm pretty much against them.
We're from Texarkana, Texas, and we went to the very first Tea Party in Texarkana, which was April the 15th of 2009.
I think it may do like Boston and save not only the country but the nation, like the original Boston Tea Party saved.
And I think they're absolutely right in the sense that we need to control government spending because we've got $1 trillion deficits as far as the eye can see. So we have to address that issue, but I think they're going about it the wrong way by being adamantly against all sorts of government programs.
I think it is a movement that has an awful lot of anger but no particular direction. It's sort of trying to get critical mass. You can go either to the left or to the right, or it could be a lot of angry people just shouting at other angry people. The Republicans, of course, want to get them because they're anti-taxes. Translation, anti-taxes for people that make a lot of money.
Government is ultimately too complex for the solutions that the Tea Party movement offers. I don't think we can roll back time and ultimately cut off our borders in terms of imports and start kicking out immigrants.
I'm a doctor and I don't believe in declining insurance to people with pre-existing health conditions, so I'm very excited about that.
Well, I think the Tea Party movement, like anything else, the whole country's founded on freedom of speech, and I think it's the opportunity for people to express their opinion.
Whether you support them or not, having a public debate is always good for democracy.
I agree that the debate is good, but I think that this particular cause has been taken over by more extremist voices.
Oh, Mark. Today in our studio is acclaimed author, novelist, and columnist for the Boston Globe, James Carroll. He's also a distinguished scholar in residence here at Suffolk University. Temple Street's Valerie Van Gerven talked to him about the Tea Party, taxation, and civic responsibility.
Well, today in Temple Street, we have James Carroll with us. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure, Val.
We just want to talk about, since the deadlines for the taxes have been passed, we want to talk about the Tea Party movement that has been recently made informed after Barack Obama's victory. Just last week, we held a big rally in Boston claiming that they resemble the original Tea Party, and they objected the administration's policies from the stimulus package to healthcare reform and taxes. So now we know that you are a Boston columnist. You write to the Boston Globe, and on April 12th you wrote in, and it was about the inherent contradiction with this movement, and that the original Tea Party was not a result of the oppressive taxes. Do you see any similarities at all between the two parties, or is this Tea Party just got it all wrong?
Well, I think the Tea Party does have it all wrong. The idea that the government is our enemy and that we have to fight off the government and resist the government, especially as that symbolized by paying taxes, contradicts something very basic to this country. What made this country the great nation it is the way in which we found the almost perfect balance between the rights of the individual and the obligations of the whole community, reflected in the way in which the community's obligations and rights are the government. So the Tea Party movement against the government is against all those things that the government supplies. So one of the contradictions, of course, is that the Tea Party had its great rally in Boston on the Boston Common. Well, who maintains the Boston Common? Who cuts the grass on the Boston Common? The Boston Common is the most valuable real estate in the city of Boston. And it isn't owned by the government, it's owned by the common. It's owned by the Commonwealth. It's owned by us. It's ours. And it's such an obvious symbol of what we have to protect. What bothers me about the Tea Party is if it became a really powerful American movement, right now it's kind of fringe, but if it became a really powerful American movement, we could actually dismantle the things that make this country and living in it so good. So, no more libraries. What about public schools? What about these bridges that are rusting out, and so forth? So, the Tea Party has it all wrong. You put it very well in the beginning of your remarks.
Thank you. So now, in the article you wrote that the Republican Party is basically on their way to self-destruction. Can you give us examples on that? What do you think?
Well, the Republican Party is, one of the two great American parties. Our system depends on the competition of two vital and responsible political parties. And it's a dangerous moment when one of those parties simply says no to everything. I hope that the Republicans see the light, and I hope those few Republicans who we used to regard as moderates step forward and take more responsibility for their party.
So it seems to me that much of this ongoing public debate is about how people perceive the term freedom and the notion of individuality, which is so central to our American ideology, especially in regards to the almost violent objection to the healthcare reform, as we touched upon. Do you think we could ever reconcile these two approaches, these two differences?
Well, that's a great question, because what you're pointing to is that there's something built into the human condition that causes tension between the freedom of the individual and the health of the group. The balancing of the tension between the individual and the group it's a work in progress. It's never finished. And that's why we have elections. And that's why we have an ongoing political argument. And that's healthy. What becomes unhealthy is when the differences between those who defend the individual and those who are concerned about the group become so extreme that it's no longer a tension, it's a rupture. And at that point, it's everybody for him or herself. You want a book? You're going to have to buy it, okay? You're not going to be able to borrow it at a publicly funded library. You want to go to school? You're going to have to pay your own way. You're not going to be able to get support from government loans. You want to get from here to Cambridge? You're going to have to rent a boat because the government isn't going to provide bridges anymore, etc.
So now, as a former priest and someone who has written extensively about the connection between religion and peace, I want to ask you how we can aspire to a more peaceful world. How can we stay optimistic and hopeful in the face of the current difficulties?
Well, you invite me to reflect on my religious background. And yes, I was a Catholic priest for 5 years, many years ago. But I've been preoccupied ever since, actually my whole adult life, with the relationship between religion and politics. Especially since 9/11, we see, in a way we maybe didn't see so clearly before, the connection between religion and violence. And one of the things that I argue is that without religious understanding between religious groups, Muslims, Jews, Christians, other people, people of no religion, without more expansive understanding among religious groups, there won't be world peace. We also, in this country, in the United States, have a problem with Christianity. The assumption that this is a Christian nation, that people who are not Christian and are not quite fully American. There's been a resurgence of what I would call Christian nationalism in this country. You saw it especially in the Bush years, President Bush's overt appeals to Christian ideology. It's an inch below the surface of the movement represented by Sarah Palin. A certain kind of Christian religion, a certain kind of politics, it can be a deadly mix. And that's what we have to watch out for.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. You have been wonderful here today, taught us a lot, and we hope to talk to you soon and see you around.
Anytime, Valerie.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Valerie. Don't go anywhere. Coming up after a short break, two funny Suffolk seniors who are making serious gains, the Independent Film Festival Boston, and the new Rammy winners.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital. I feel like a fish with no water.
You know how to react to their asthma attacks. Here's how to prevent them. Call 1-866-NO-ATTACKS. Visit www.noattacks.org or call your doctor. Because even one attack is one too many.
While many students feel uncertain about their job prospects after graduation, some already have their career paths cleared and graded. Kevin Rogers and Elaine Pulo have followed two lucky seniors on their way to a career in the art of improvisation.
Suffolk University's own Kelly Dooley and Trevor Livingston have big plans lined up for this summer. The two soon-to-be Suffolk alumni just got a big break in the form of an opportunity to pursue their love for improv comedy as professionals. The Improv Asylum in Boston's historic North End is one of the most renowned improv theaters in the entire city. After waiting 4 years to make it into the cast at the Improv Asylum, both Dooley and Livingston have finally conquered their dream by auditioning for the Improv Asylum's developmental NXT cast and successfully being invited to join.
I'm looking forward to probably doing more experimental work that I haven't done before. For the last 4 years, I've done a lot of straight on improv, all improv shows, or a little bit of sketch here and there. And I think to put together a review that has music and closers and openers and sketches and improv, and try to make it different than the shows that have happened in the last 10 years is really exciting.
The two have performed on Suffolk's nationally ranked improv troupe, Seriously Bent, for the past 4 years. The troupe, directed by Asylum mainstage member Jeremy Brothers, has competed successfully in a number of improv competitions. Most recently, Seriously Bent has placed second in a national competition in Chicago, America's home of improv comedy.
Seriously Bent was the single biggest life change I had in college. It gave me a great group of friends. It gave me great experiences, but most of all, it directed my life in a certain career path.
Seriously Bent has been a gateway for improvisational actors over the years. Daniel Phaneuf and Anthony Pasifume, who are both Seriously Bent alumni, have performed on the NXT cast, as well as the Asylum's mainstage cast. Patty Barrett, also a Seriously Bent alum, is on the NXT cast and will be performing with Dooley and Livingston in their upcoming review this summer.
I'd like to do well in the NXT. Ideally make the main stage. I want to move to Chicago really bad because I want to pursue improv in a bigger spectrum.
Both students have set high goals for themselves, hoping to one day perform on the cast of the legendary Second City in Chicago. While most students wait impatiently for the grim economic downturn to pass, these two comedians are going to keep laughing. For Temple Street, I am Elaine Pulo.
Dooley and Livingston are currently in rehearsal for the show titled Lost in Boston, which will open on Sundays and Wednesdays beginning in June. You should check it out.
Just like many look forward to the Oscars and Grammys each year, we at Suffolk anticipate our very own award ceremony, the Rammys. Jenna Madison and Corey Habib went to the show and met the new winners.
For the third year in a row, the Department of Communications at Suffolk University hosted their annual Rammy Awards ceremony, and this year's event was even bigger and shinier than past years. The show was held at the C. Walsh Theater and hosted by a professor of the Communications and Journalism Department, Dr. Dana Rosengard.
I'm on the Rammy Committee with a bunch of other faculty members in the Department of Communication and Journalism, and together we just come up with the ideas and make it all happen for the students.
Although open to all Suffolk students, the majority of submissions came from video production, broadcast journalism, and photography majors, who submitted their best class work.
I have no idea. I've never been to a Rammy Awards before, but it'll be cool to win.
This opportunity gives students a chance to showcase their hard work, creativity, and talent, while competing against their friends for a title, trophy, and bragging rights.
I don't know if we'll win or not, but it would be cool if we did.
This is my year!
The idea originated with Dr. Medmoni Gerber, Dr. Huntman, and Media Lab Director Jason Carter, who all believed it would give students a chance to refine their work and have the experience of having their work viewed in a public screening.
It's been a surprising success, I believe, because the show has grown in size and in production values.
Over 100 submissions this year in 9 different categories were judged by professionals in media and the visual arts, the largest submission pool they've had so far. Some winners of the night were Colby Woodfield, Jordan Freckman, Katie McCabe, and Victoria Acosta Rubio.
I think it's really exciting that they have this event because, we all work so hard, and it's good to have, something that honors all the hard work that we put into it.
Along with the awards portion of the show, great performances struck the crowd, like Suffolk act Vocal Bliss, an amazing hip-hop dance crew Wicked, and Miss Boston 2010, who sang an outstanding opera number by Mozart.
Made with the fibers of our beloved ram.
Not a bunny, Rammy is money.
Suffolk University's Rammy Awards was a success this year, and students and faculty look forward to future submissions and more amazing shows to come. We hope to see you there. Reporting from Temple Street, I'm Jenna Mattis.
Planning for next year's ceremony has already begun, and students are encouraged to submit entries beginning in the fall.
Get ready for it. Independent Film Festival Boston is here. An 8-day screening for creative works from around the world featured here every April. Kevin Rogers is in the studio with us with more.
Welcome, Kevin. So what do you have for us today?
Thank you, Nicole. Well, only in its 8th year, this indie film festival has already been called a major game in town and a risk taker by the Globe. And it is quickly becoming one of the viewers' and critics' favorite venues for independent work. The festival was started in 2002 when co-founder Scott Mumaw set out to create one of the best independent film festivals in the country. One that would bring together producers, directors, actors, and attendees as active participants. The festival includes a mix of documentaries, feature films, and shorts. These films aren't shot with the bright lights or big budgets of Hollywood, but with alternative minds and resources. This year, the 8-day festival is being held simultaneously at the Somerville Theater in Davis Square, the Coolidge Corner Theater, the Brattle Theater, and the Institute of Contemporary Art. Collectively, the theaters will showcase 127 films. Ticket prices average $9 per viewing. However, some time slots, which include shorts, will feature more than one film. One excellent short, titled Diplomacy, follows a conversation between the U.S. Secretary of State and the Iranian Foreign Minister.
شما میبایستی که در واشنگتن مهمان ما میبودی.
Your English is very impressive. Should we send them home?
به نظر میاد میتونیم مترجمان رو مرخص کنیم. انگلیسی شما واقعا.
The interpreters in the film take the liberty of warping the conversation in order to avoid offending one another. However, the distortion of the conversations get out of control as the 9-minute film continues, to the point where it's the interpreters themselves, not the government officials, who are making policy revisions. One documentary that caught my attention is 8, The Mormon Proposition. It follows the story of California's Proposition 8 to revoke same-sex marriage law.
They're probably the greatest threat to America going down I know of.
The gays?
Yeah.
California, a bellwether state, a state that's always been on the leading and cutting edge of new ideas, was the first state in U.S. history to use our Constitution to take rights away from people.
The film points the finger at the Mormon Church, claiming it was a major player in the successful campaign to revoke Proposition 8. Filmmakers Reed Cohen and Stephen Greenstreet also provide a much-needed context, tracing the roots of the Mormon Church's political influence on gay marriage back to the 1980s in Hawaii. On the last day of the festival, the film Micmacs by renowned French writer and producer Jean-Pierre Jeunet was featured. In this sensational narrative, Jeunet cast famed French actor Danny Boone as his lead character, Basile. Basile, who lost his father as a child, gets hit with a stray bullet in a drive-by shooting while working at a video store. The bullet, which stays lodged in his head, was shot by the same man who killed his father. The story follows his journey to seek revenge. Jeunet, who captivated his audience with the beautiful film Amélie once before, brings again the same beloved beauty and romance to this film. I highly recommend watching it.
Wow, Kevin, you know what? I actually really liked Emily. I think I'm gonna go see his new movie.
Well, if you follow the Independent Film Festival Boston on either Facebook or Twitter, they will let you know what films are screening in the area, and most of the time they're free. So you should definitely check it out.
Yeah, I think I might.
I'm more of a Patrick Swayze fan myself. Well, that does it for this edition of Temple Street. I'm Mark Provenzano.
I'm Kevin Rogers.
And I'm Nicole Lee. See you next time on Temple Street.